and we say good evening for everybody. Today I'm going to recite a verses and tell you verse, one verse. This verse sounds like this. Sukho buddhanang uppado, sukho saddhamma desana, sukha saddhamma desana, sukha sanghasya samaggi, samagganang tapo sukho. It means the appearance of the Buddha to this world is the highest happiness. Listening to the Supreme Dhamma is highest happiness. And the Sangha community which live in very harmony and discipline also gives us the highest happiness. And again, the life that lead by ascetic also gives us the highest happiness. I like to tell you the meaning for this. When we see a Buddha appear in this world, we feel very happy. When we listen to his Dhamma, we also feel very happy. Because he guides us, he teaches us the way how to overcome so many difficulties in life and how to carry on a noble way of life. And again, the Buddha is the one who can teach us how to lead a noble life year and year after, and how to prepare everything. And the Dhamma, by listening to the Dhamma, what we gain? We gain knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And by listening to this Dhamma, again we try to keep away from so many evil and bad things and try to lead a noble way of life. This is the happiness when we really practice Dhamma. And the Sangha, when you see the Sangha or the holy order, those who lead a religious life, you feel very happy. When you see the Sangha community, you feel very happy. And you also try your best to follow the Sangha. And they guide you, they protect you, and you feel this is also happiness. And again, the ascetic, one who lead a religious way of life, try to contribute most of his goodwill for the environment, for the living beings such as animal, human beings, trees, the atmosphere, environment, and the nature. By leading his life in that such way, a good noble way of life, he really gives happiness to the environment, and people also feel happy. There is a story. Once Venerable Ananda asked Buddha, what is highest happiness? Then Venerable Ananda, then Buddha said, Ananda, for most of people, having riches, having property, having delicious food is highest, for them is happiness. But do you know, Ananda, one who sees the Buddha, one who listens to his supreme Dharma, one who sees the Sangha, and one who sees the real ascetic who leading a religious life and giving good support, this is highest happiness. Thank you very much.
Also 63. Yo balo manyati balyam pandito apitena so baloche panditamani save baloti uchyati yo balo manyati balyam pandito apitena so baloche panditamani save baloti uchyati. This is a well-known saying of the Buddha. Similar sayings we can find in Confucius, Socrates, and some other learned religious teachers also have mentioned the same thing. The meaning is given here in this way. The fool who knows that he is a fool is for that very reason a wise man. The fool who thinks that he is wise is called a fool indeed. The Buddha had to utter these sayings due to certain incident. Two people went to listen to the teachings of the Buddha. One of them was a very cunning person. When people were listening to the Dhamma, he started stealing things from the devotees. So, after this sermon, when both of them were going home, that cunning fellow told the other one, "What did you collect today?" He said, "I listened to the Dhamma." "What do you gain by listening to the Dhamma?" "Knowledge." "What that knowledge can contribute for your happiness?" So he ridiculed his attitude for listening and appreciating the Dhamma. Then he said, "Do you know what I did? I have collected a lot of things, the money and jewelries and certain things I have stolen. See, these things are valuable things. You did to gain anything? See, you are a fool. I am the wise man." After listening to this incident, the Buddha had to say this. Who is the wise man and who is the real fool? Yo balo manyati balya. Fool knows that he is a fool. He had the opportunities to get rid of that foolish attitude and improve his knowledge, because he admits that he is a fool. Therefore the Buddha says he is wise. If we can understand we are fools. On the other hand, if a fool thinks that he knows that he is wise, he never takes the opportunity to learn, to improve his knowledge or understanding. So forever he remains as a fool. That is the idea. But this is a very good advice for all of us, because we have this weakness. We try to show others that we know. But when we analyze, we know only next to nothing. Just only certain imaginations. Socrates was asked. Everybody knows that he is a very learned man at that time in Europe, in Greece. So one of his friends asked, "Can you tell me? People say you are a very learned man, you knows everything. So can you tell me actually something?" Then he said, "Yes, I know only one thing, that I do not know." This is the attitude of a wise man. He knows there are so many things in this world that he cannot understand. But if he knows that, he is an understanding person. The trouble with us, we have very strong egoistic attitude, and we pretend that we know. But when we analyze, there is nothing, empty, only imagination. Understanding, knowledge, wisdom, realizations, there are different stages. First, we gain only knowledge. Knowledge means collecting information by listening, reading, discussing. We get some information. So we keep them in our mind. That is knowledge. But in that knowledge, there is no real understanding. People have book knowledge. They know everything what is in their book that they have read. But no changes in their life. They remain forever without any changes, but they have knowledge. They can argue. They can refer to various books or various teachers or philosophers, great thinkers. But no development in the mind. Then understanding. By considering what they have learned, keeping in their mind as knowledge, they try to understand the meaning, whether they are practical, useful or useless or meaningless. Analyze and gain some ideas. By analyzing that knowledge, they gain little bit of analytical knowledge. Then understand certain aspect of the knowledge that they have. But that understanding also very limited, not accurate. Because They understand things by analyzing, considering with their limited knowledge. Certain things that they have learned may be wrong information and distorted information, but they have no knowledge to understand that this is wrong. That is the weakness of knowledge without using that analytical interpretations or sense of reasoning. Then we try to understand. Through this understanding, we realize certain things. Realizations appears in the mind by considering very deeply and unbiasedly. Otherwise there is no realization. We understood and we realized two different meanings. Realization is deeper than understanding. That understanding, when we consider further and further, then we get realization. Let us take an example. We always talk about Four Noble Truths. We talk about Anatta doctrine or this voidness. Shunyata. These two are very good examples. We know Four Noble Truths, that is knowledge. We try to understand, then we analyze this kind of suffering, and this is the cause of suffering, this is what we gain by ending all our suffering, and this is the method for us to get rid of our suffering. Understood. That is understanding. Later we analyze further, considering very deeply about this kind of suffering. Why do we suffer? These are the causes. These are the reasons. Our attitude, our way of life, our way of talking, our way of doing things, and the way how we crave. Then further understanding we develop in that mind. Even then, realizations not yet appear in the mind. Only the superficial value. If realization appeared in the mind, completely change our way of life. We do not behave as usual. After that, we don't take things so seriously, either to cry or to worry or to fight or to accuse or to create troubles or problems. That come after realization. When we talk, yes, we can preach, we can explain to others, yes, the cause of all these sufferings is nothing but our craving and this and that. But we have not reduced our craving. Our cravings still remain without any changes. After this realization, then we start to reduce. But we can reduce this in practical way. Otherwise it is not practical. Now we have craving. Without craving we cannot live in this world. For our survival we need craving. Otherwise we are mad. Then how to start? If craving is the main cause, how to start? To reduce it. First, we must reduce craving for others' property. Don't crave for others' things. Then you can cut down 50% of your craving and you can maintain some sort of satisfaction or contentment. You never interfere with others' property or things or belonging, and you never crave. After that, you have craving for your own property. Later, when you handle your own property, you experience a lot of problems, burdens, responsibilities, insecurity, and become nuisance when you analyze this. After that, you try to reduce your burdens from your mind, either by handing over to those who are entitled, if not slowly contributing towards charitable or religious bodies to serve others. Now you are reducing, slowly you are reducing craving for your own property also, because you know this becomes a real burden to you. So one day you can satisfy with your life because you are not going to interfere or handle anything handed over. Your minds are free from the burdens and responsibilities. Now you have more time to think about your life, about your future, about your next life, because you are not crazy towards property. Still you have craving towards your physical body. All your property also contributed or handed over. Now you have craving, very strong craving. This body becomes the cause of so many problems. To create many evil or immoral or dangerous things. To maintain, to support, sustain this physical body, we commit a lot of bad things and cruel things. Then we concentrate to maintain this dirty physical body, which is impermanent, which will collapse. Why should I violate peace, happiness of others? Why should I take the advantage to bluff others, swindle others, harm others, disturb others to maintain this dirty physical body? So when you consider seriously in that way, the strong attachment that you have toward this physical body, somehow or the other I must maintain this by adopting any kind of wicked or cruel method, slowly reduce. Dhanam tajeyo pana anga hetu. People are willing to sacrifice their property or money to save their body, hands, legs. If doctors say you are suffering from this kind of sicknesses, or your leg is gangrene, you have to amputate. Then you ask, is there any method that can save my leg? The doctor says, yes. If you can spend at least $100,000, I think I can save. I don't mind spending $100,000 if you can save my leg. Yes, that is called dhanam chaje. We sacrifice our dhana, our property, for anga hetu, so one of our limbs to protect. Angang chaje jivitang rakkaman. Later, the doctors come and say, this situation is very bad, incurable, no choice. We had to amputate your leg, otherwise you won't last long. You may die. Then you decide to sacrifice the leg for the sake of the body. Formerly agreed to sacrifice $100,000 to protect the leg. Now he decides to sacrifice the leg to protect his body or his life. Angang chaje jivitang rakkama. Then angang dhanang jivitang chapi sabbang jaje naro dhamma manussarantu. Those who can understand the real value of Dhamma are willing to sacrifice wealth, limbs, body and everything for the sake of the Dhamma. Dhamma means principle. Uphold the principle. Why they do that? You think they are fools. By protecting property, limbs, body, in the end, what do they gain? Nothing. After they are dead, they drop everything. But when they uphold their principles, Dhamma, they prepare for their next life, to continue their life. That is the only thing that they can carry, to mold, to prepare the next life. So, principles that we uphold as Dharma pave the way for us to get rid of our suffering, to find out our salvation, to lead a peaceful, happy life. They are called wise people, understanding people. Now, how many people are there who analyze and realize and understand in this way? That's why I told you. We think we know, but that knowledge we do not analyze and realize and practice. Let us take the other word. Always people talk to show they are very learned people, they know everything, the voidness, emptiness. No, after all, what is that? Everything is empty and nothing, void. What is the meaning of that? Not only from the religious point of view, as analyzed by the Albert Einstein, scientifically. That is how they can prove the analytical interpretations of the Buddha can be proven through the scientific discoveries. Albert Einstein says, when we analyze the whole universe, into matters and energies or elements, go on analyzing. In the end, there is no world, there is no universe, there are no living beings, there are no matters, no elements, no energies. He says, remains only waves. Buddhism says anatta, unsubstantiality. That means when we analyze, there is nothing to remain as permanent entity in any part of the universe. If there is anything to exist, that existence is the combinations of elements and energies. When elements and energies are disintegrated or dissolved, there is nothing to remain as permanent entity, either as elements or energies. Then, in Mahayana schools of Buddhism, they have analyzed further the same doctrine taught by the Buddha as voidness or sunyata, especially a Buddhist scholar Nagarjuna. He says the whole universe is empty, nothing but is voidness, nothing to remain as our property, as elements or minds or body. But all the other existing religions say there is something to remain as permanent or lasting entity, self or soul, that will remain forever. And according to the Buddha, this is a concept created by people just to console their craving. Otherwise, people cannot satisfy. When we say, don't worry, after your death, there will be something to remain in heaven. You exist forever, permanent, eternal, everlasting. They use the word life also, everlasting life. The Buddha rejected this, saying it is impossible. This is only concept, belief, created by people to console those who have craving to exist. If existence takes place in any part of the universe, there must be an end. There is no existence without combinations of elements and energies. Whether in heaven or hell or any part of the universe, there will be an end to it. Durations may differ, So sunyata or voidness means the whole world is nothing but vijñapti matra concept. Can you understand that? All are concepts created by the mind. World, earth, oceans, jungle, rocks, a space, a stars, humans, animals. Who created all these concepts? By the human mind. If there is no human mind, there are no more such concepts. All are elements and energies. Now, we give names to birds, fish, and all the other living beings. Now, you say Icambilis, but Icambilis do not know their names. This name is given by us for us to recognize. We say rambutan tree. This is our concept to recognize, to identify. Anything that which exists in this world, the concept is created by us for us to recognize. But when we analyze, let us take man or woman. These are the two names given by us. In reality, no man, no woman. All are elements and energies. Different shape. Two-legged, four-legged. When we separate these elements, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, four elements, makes no difference with the human element or animal's element or the element of the universe, elements of the earth, element of the planets, all are the same element. That is why in the Buddha's teaching it is mentioned, Imasmincha vyamamatte kalebare lokancha loka samudayancha panjate. If we want to examine, investigate the nature of the world, the nature of the universe, it is not necessary for you to go anywhere. Imasmincha vyamamatte kalebare. Within this physical body, you can see the whole universe. If you analyze. Anything that exists in other part of the universe or planets or earth or globe, everything you can find here in this body. All the elements, all the energies. But here there is an extraordinary thing, that is mind. You cannot find mind in those elements. It is due to our ignorance. We do not know how to analyze, how to understand, how to realize what it is. These two items I explained. To understand our knowledge, our understanding, our realization, how far we have realized. Just only superficial values, face values we take of the world. If realizations appear, we become entirely different human beings. We change our egoism, we change our greed, we change our selfishness, we change our anger, our jealousy, and all these evil forces we change. We maintain, we support these things because of our ignorance. Another thing, if we can understand, our knowledge is very poor, then we can reduce our pride or conceit, egoism. We become very humble. Another scholar has mentioned, I think, Socrates. If we can admit our own mistake, we never get angry. We get angry because we are not ready to accept our own mistake. If we admit, then we become very humble, we can apologize, then we can avoid clashes, argument, enmity, violence, if we can admit our mistake. Finish. No more fight. No more argument. No more anger. But people are not ready to do that. They are not wise people. We maintain that hypocrisy. We pretend we are innocent. We have not done that. But inside, when you analyze, it is foolishness. Foolishness is behind. Foolishness support for us to maintain these weaknesses. We can settle so many problems, misunderstanding, enmity, violence, if we are willing to admit our own mistake. We always make mistake. No one can live making mistake. But we are not ready to accept. We try to justify. Although we admit that we have done that, we try to argue and justify. There's nothing wrong. That is egoism. We know we are wrong actually, but we want to argue and justify. Nothing wrong. So all these are weaknesses. So we should not think we are very clever because we can argue. We can protect ourselves through our argument. Either by threatening or frightening, we try to win because we can talk. And we try to topple others, innocent people. But all these things are weaknesses. So according to the Buddha, so yo balo manjati balyam. If people can understand that they are fools, fool means who cannot understand things properly. Fools are innocent people. Very seldom they make harm to others. But they have that wrong belief. If they can get rid of that wrong belief, wrong concept, they have chances to develop their way of life and understanding. Intelligent people are dangerous, very dangerous. educated and intelligent. They never become harmless people. Very seldom Vijjacharana. So the introduction that we have given to the Buddha, knowledge and conduct, knowledge and behavior, we cannot find in one person. If knowledge is very advanced, there will be a lot of weaknesses in his character, in his behavior. If the behavior is very good, very calm, very nice, something is wrong in his knowledge. Not very advanced. These two things very difficult to work together, go together. Cleverness and goodness. These two things never work together. Clever man is not a good man. Good man is not a clever man. He is very lazy man. He is good, he is kind, he is honest, he is sincere, but he is not clever. Clever man is very cunning, very selfish, lot of egoism, and very violent, clever people. This is the nature of these qualities. But in the case of the Buddha, Vijjacharana. Vijja means knowledge. Charana means character. These two things are equal. His knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment, but no one can compare with another religious teacher or philosopher or great learned people. Far superior. At the same time, no one can find out any human weakness in him, not even human emotion. Even Arahantas also not free from emotion. They have human emotion. Human emotion is like this. When we burn something here by using firewood or charcoal, boiling water, after that we remove the fire and charcoals and everything, clean this place. But the heat remains for few hours. So when a person removes his defilement, mental impurities, to become an arahant, just like the heat remains for a certain period, hours, samsaric habits, emotions are still working in his mind. But only person who is free from this is the Buddha. Because he had been practicing and doing this such a long period in samsara to eradicate that. So he has no emotion. He cannot cry. He cannot laugh like us. But occasionally he shows his smiling face to indicate something. Without any reason he never shows. It is not emotional smiling, just to indicate something. Any time when he shows his smiling face, when the disciples assemble, oh, now the Buddha got something to tell us. So, Vidya and Charana, these two qualities you can find in one person. You can study personal characters or behavior or attitude of various religious teachers, founders, or philosophers, great thinkers, scientists. They have a lot of human weaknesses in them. Either anger or jealousy or egoism or something, but excellent knowledge, wisdom they have. So they are not ready to admit their weakness because of their intelligence. So inside that intelligence there is foolishness. That is why they maintain. In the eyes of the Buddha, they are not intelligent. They have very dried philosophy, knowledge, intelligence. So what we have to learn from these sayings of the Buddha? We should not think that we know. Always we have to think there are many more things for us to learn, to know, to understand, to clarify, to verify. And then you have chances to improve further and further and further. You can say, yes, I can remember all these things, Four Noble Truths, Eight Noble Paths and everything. But all these are the names and concepts and ideas, knowledge you keep in your mind. But realization takes place through your effort, put into practice. Then the changes take place. So if you think you know, what is the use of going there, listening to this Friday talk and Sunday talk, because we know all these things. But you must understand, one day when we read the book, you get some idea. After a few months, when you read the same book, you get entirely different ideas. Depends on the nature of the mind at that time when you read this book. Today you need something for your mind. So you grasp only those things, what you need today. But after 1 or 2 months you need something else. Then you take something else also again. You can read the book for 100 times. You get different ideas. Because your mind grasps different ideas. And listening to Dhamma also. Listening to this Dhamma. You should not say, oh, I know what our Chief Reverend every Friday, same thing, repeating, same thing. But you can read the Tripitaka, 45 years teachings of the Buddha. When you read, the Buddha has repeated again and again and again and again the same thing. The reason is, he has not given those sermons to the same group, same people, same area, different places. So, now I had to repeat again and again because every day there are some newcomers. Again when I repeat, you can relieve. You can remember if you have forgotten. And your understanding also develop further and further and further because you start to think and analyze. Now this is the advantage of the Buddha says, Asutang sunati, sutang paryodapeti, kankam vitarati, ditthing ijum karoti, four advantages of listening to the Dhamma. Asutang sunati. You get the chance to listen to certain things that you have never learned earlier. Sutang pariyodapeti. Whatever you have heard earlier, you can clarify, verify further by listening again and again. Kankang vitarati. Certain misconceptions, wrong ideas that you had in your mind, you can get rid of them after listening again and again. Ditthing ijung karoti. Then you can straighten your mind, develop great confidence and understanding in your mind by listening to the Dhamma. Four advantages of listening to Dhamma again and again. This is the Buddha's saying. Another thing, whether you learned or not, whether you can remember what you listened, the time that you spent here, you try to guard your mind without allowing to create evil thoughts in your mind, bad thoughts in your mind. You get the chance to control your senses, five senses here. Listening, seeing, smelling, taste, these five things. Without misusing these five senses at that moment. And this is the way how we develop discipline, cultivate our senses, and how to guard the mind. Then we maintain some sort of purity in our mind, because we have no chance to think of evil thought, create evil ideas in your thought. Then when you go out, on the way or at home, then you start all sort of kachau. No peace, no happiness. This is another advantage, just to control the mind, to maintain peace at least for few hours. This is a suitable place. I think enough. My throat also giving trouble now. Yesterday I stopped my antibiotic. Simina punya kammena upadjaya gunuttara acari upakarace mata pita piyamamam Suryo Candimaraja Gunavamtanarapice Brahma Maraca Indace Lokapalaca Devata Yamo Gitta Manusace Madhyata Vedika Pice Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu Punyani Pakatani Me Sukhanca Tividam Dentu Kipang Papeta Homatam Imina punya kammena Imina uddhisena ce Kippahang sulabhe ceva Tannupadana cedanam Yesam tanihina dhamma Yava nibbana to mamam Nasantu sabbada eva Yat जातो भवे भवे उजुचितो सतिपन्यो सल्ले